A lot of teams still have opportunities, and now there's an opportunity for somebody to be the head coach of the LSU Tigers. Perfect time to talk to Josh Pate. You can check him out on Josh Pate's College Football Show, a member of ESPN, On3 Sports, and Yahoo Sports, joining us here in the locker room on The Fan. Josh, thank you so much for your time this morning, sir.
I appreciate you guys having me. You're doing morning drive, so you're probably a little more used to news breaking while you're on air.
Right.
I had some news break last night doing a Sunday night show. You think you're safe on Sunday night, especially NFL's going on.
Right.
No college news is going to break. And then in your ear, 3 minutes after you go on air, hey, Brian Kelly got fired. Discuss, live, go. So that was really fun.
So the immediate question, is it time? You get paid that money. Look, kickers don't kick, they get replaced. People don't manage, they replace them. You don't win when you're paid to win championships and put a program into championship mode. You have to go. But that being said, was it time when they just got all of those guys on defense, even though they weren't having the season they wanted to have?
Yeah, I think it was. It wasn't really, for me, correlated directly to wins and losses. Most of the time it is. I'm actually the guy that a lot of times, this day and age, will say, you got to factor in the possibility things just go off the rails. I mean, rosters are built different these days. They are rooted a little bit differently these days. So like when Penn State fired James Franklin, I thought probably jumped the gun a little bit. With this one, I don't think they did, but it extends well beyond wins and losses to me. With Brian, it was more about the unwillingness to embrace Louisiana, which sounds like a Hallmark card, I know. But what I mean when I say that is when Saban took that job a generation ago, he was an outsider. He'd never lived in the South. He was from West Virginia. He was at Michigan State coaching. But when he took the job, he took it because of Louisiana. He took it because of their ability to harness and leverage in-state talent, the culture, the natural college football resources you have there. At that time, it was a lot of untapped potential. Then Saban tapped into it, and every coach since then did to some degree. Brian Kelly came down there a generation later, and it kind of disappoints me because I thought highly of him. And it turns out he came down there and just kind of viewed it as a ladder maybe with one more rung on it, and he could just climb up it and try and grab the brass ring he couldn't quite grab at Notre Dame. But he really never checked in to Louisiana. And more specifically, and this is kind of where the dereliction of football duty comes in, he was checked out on a lot of the most important aspects of the program. Big recruiting weekends. I mean, Brian Kelly would be on a beach in Florida a lot of times. There were hires they made recently where he's not even really the one fully vetting his own staff. I mean, there's some guys on that staff right now he spoke to once, maybe twice before they got added to his staff.
Goodness.
So that's at that point, I'm looking and I'm saying there are a million guys in the world who would love to have this job. Several of them are actually qualified to have the job. If someone's not going to fully appreciate it and buy into it, it's probably time to move on. Now, I say that not owing him a dollar. They owe him tens of millions of dollars. So it's a little different when you got to pull the trigger there. But when you get that political infrastructure mobilized down there, I think it was just a matter of time. And as it turns out, last night was the time.
Josh, we haven't even reached Halloween yet, and Penn State's job's open, LSU's job's open, Florida's job's open. We've heard rumors about Florida State, and is Dabo Swinney happy at Clemson? And then the residual effect of who gets hired from these jobs. If you were to rank right now, just the big three, LSU, Florida, and Penn State, how would you rank them as far as best job available?
To me, it's the order you stated them in. It's LSU, it's Florida, it's Penn State. But I also am always very careful to talk about these jobs, not in the abstract, but in specific focus. So I'm going to throw a name out there. Let's just say you're Matt Campbell at Iowa State. All right, and all three of these places offer you. Well, Matt's the kind of guy who wants to coach in a certain portion of the country. So Matt Campbell, and again, I'm just using him as an example because I know him a little bit, he's the kind of guy who would look at the Penn State job and say, I actually prefer that one over LSU and Florida. Now, most coaches will look at that and say, no way, man, give me access to Southern talent. I want to be in warm weather. I want to be closer to a beach. Well, he would look at that and say, okay, to each his own. Now, if you're talking about a Lane Kiffin, I guarantee a Lane Kiffin's not even paying passing mind to Penn State, especially if LSU and or Florida come calling for him. So I think in a generic sense, and most of these big-time coaches who are going to be in play here, they would view it either LSU, Florida, or Florida, LSU, and then Penn State. I thought about Penn State last night because I thought about how unfortunate it may be for them, and we'll see. They may already have their guy. But if they don't, how unfortunate it is for them that they were first to jump. And then so many big-time jobs are coming open after them. You never know how detrimentally that may impact them in the hiring market.
Josh Pate joining us here in the locker room via the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. Now, we had some big games. I called it out of here Saturday, where there were going to be some teams out of here if they did not get some wins. Missouri and the team in Vanderbilt that just keeps on winning. That was a battle between one-loss teams in the SEC. Looks like Missouri might be out of here. Then you had Missouri not only losing, but then you had Ole Miss having to take on Oklahoma. That was an out-of-here game with two one-loss teams. Your thoughts on what you saw over the weekend and where the SEC is now as we get closer to the first college football playoff rankings coming up?
There's some really stupid debate happening right now about conference superiority, which I never understand in the middle of a season. So, there's one school of thought that the Big Ten has the two best teams in the country, so they're superior. And then there's another school of thought where, well, okay, even if that's true, maybe the SEC's got number 3 through number 8, so maybe they're superior. I'm looking at it and I'm saying it could be that the SEC is extremely deep, but no one's elite, and it could be that there's huge separation in the Big Ten, but that separation is between a couple of elite teams and a bunch of average teams. I am going to allow November to play out. That's my constitutional right. I get to watch all the games before I have to decide, and I will exercise that right. But I think over this weekend, I'm going to tell you who stood up to me, Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss was in a pretty tough spot going into Oklahoma. It was the second leg of a back-to-back road stretch for them. Guys, they had some defensive front players play 80-plus snaps the week before, and they were having to go on the road again against an Oklahoma team that I thought had found a little bit of a run game the week before. And, man, they got work done. They took control of the game early. They had, I think, 7 plays that accounted for 200 yards. So they found explosive plays against Oklahoma. And, now Lane Kiffin has got a little breathing room. See, last year around this time they had no breathing room because they had lost that game to Kentucky. Well, this year they played Kentucky, close game, but they won. And so now they got a little breathing room. I also thought the Bama game was interesting because I thought maybe some dishonest takes on that game. A lot of people wanted to view the game in isolation. You view that game in isolation, and Bama looked bad, and they're lucky to get out of there with a win, and now they're really suspect as a national title contender. I don't know in good faith how you look at that game without understanding what they just did the previous 4 weeks and understanding how that could play a role in you looking a little flat, trying to get up for a 5th week in a row. At that point, those kind of games, you bear crawl over broken glass if you have to. Find a win any way you can, get to the bye week, and then get hot down the stretch. I thought that was big. I thought it was kind of a weekend where if Indiana was going to have a little bit of a hiccup, just keep an eye on them, and they just body bagged UCLA. So they keep rolling. The Big Ten has felt for weeks now like we're just headed towards Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon's going to be there, but they need some help. They played in, I don't know if you guys watched that Oregon game, just disgusting weather. And they took care of Wisconsin. I think they were favored by 31. They scored 21, but it was enough. So kind of a weekend that I don't think the nation will talk about on-field results from because of the firings that are happening. But I thought we learned some lessons Saturday.
I want to ask you about a couple of teams that maybe we're learning more lessons about, one being Texas A&M, because it seems like every year we wait for A&M to have that inevitable 3 or 4 game losing streak, and it feels different this year. And then locally here with Georgia Tech, not getting as much respect because the ACC is down and they don't necessarily play the top teams. But how do you view those two teams moving forward throughout the year?
Georgia Tech will not get any respect nationally. I'm just telling you. I picked them to go to the ACC title game in August, and everyone laughed. And they're still laughing at me, and they're a favorite to win the conference right now. So I can confidently tell you, because I'm standing on the front lines with some of you guys down there, they will not respect you until you beat a team that, quote-unquote, you're not supposed to beat. And, by my count, that would probably be Georgia, and that's not even a conference game. And that's the last weekend of the regular season. So, look, I had someone in Nashville, ironically, give me this line the other day. They said, Haynes King is having the season people think Diego Pavia is having, which was just a brilliant way to put that performance last Saturday. I want to stress that's an anonymous person on the street. That's not me. I'm not hating on Diego Pavia. But, that was an incredible game. And that's a game where everyone wanted to whisper, "Oh, Georgia Tech, watch out." Well, then they roll, and everyone wants to say, "Well, yeah, of course they beat Syracuse. Everyone beat Syracuse." Well, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So that's that part of the equation. But the A&M thing is most interesting to me because A&M dominated, and that was going to be the big talking point on Sunday and Monday. Mm-hmm. Then Brian got fired, and that's the talking point. And everyone's quick to forget the reason that he got fired. His last act on duty was turning a fourth quarter in his home stadium into an infomercial for the road team. It was really bizarre to watch. Their fans took over the building. The only LSU mention during the fourth quarter was when the ABC cameras were zooming in on Fire Brian Kelly signs or turning the field mics up so you could hear the Fire Kelly chants.
Goodness.
I mean, Mike Elko's got that thing rolling. And the people who are doubters, I think, about A&M, they're not doubting the football product they're seeing on the field right now. They're doubting them due to history. There is a sizable group of the college football public, and I do understand this group, that says, well, they've never done it before. Why should I have any confidence they'll do it now? And that's fair. However, I'll just say this. I don't care what the history of A&M football is. Mike Elko's he's got nothing to do with it. Marcel Reed's got nothing to do with it. Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, they got nothing to do with it. So whether this team sinks or swims this year will be because of whether this crew can get it done. It's not because, some mysticism that exists because A&M choked in 1984.
Everybody wants to keep looking at that stuff. You're exactly right. To that point, two teams that historically have no business being in the top 10, Georgia Tech and Vandy at 8 and 9, respectively. Who do you think has a better chance to make a deep run in the playoffs here, and why?
I think Georgia Tech, because I think Georgia Tech's got the more workable path to get there. Vandy's got – look, it's pretty incredible to think that they're a 2.5-point dog on the road at Texas Saturday, which implies if they played that thing on a neutral field, Vandy would be slightly favored over Texas. And, by the way, that line hasn't moved much. So that tells you what smart money thinks. So I think – but Vandy's still got to go through that. They still got to go to Neyland at the end of the year. So there's still a couple of games they could drop. Plus, they play Auburn and Kentucky at home. And Vandy's not – the nature of that team is they got to win close games right now against talented rosters at least. So I would say Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech has put themselves in position by winning some of these close games where they got a little wiggle room. And, if you get in the playoff, that's one-game situation, so you never know what could happen. But I would say Georgia Tech is my answer there. I just think it's crazy that that's a question that I don't think we really thought we'd be asking in July.
What do you think Brent Key should do? He could be ACC champions. He could get to the college football playoff. He could miss out. He has a couple of options if teams that look at what he's doing at Georgia Tech want him. Do you think he should stay at Georgia Tech, continue to build a monster, or do you think when opportunities arise, he should look at all of his options and maybe think about leaving?
Well, I work from inside out on that stuff. This is just me personally. I define what makes me happy. All right, and I do that before I ever know which jobs are available. What makes me happy? What do I need? Not anyone else. Forget about that. Not what my agent says. Like, what do I want? And then I start asking myself, where am I? I'm at Georgia Tech. I've got a unique tie to Georgia Tech. I played here, so this is more than just a job to me, I would assume. How many of my boxes of happiness did Georgia Tech check? How confident am I that leaving here would automatically equal a step up in overall happiness and quality of life? If the answer is not definitively yes, it'll be an upgrade, you don't leave. Brent Key is going to win, and I think he'll win wherever he is. Where will he be happiest winning? Where can you leave a legacy? There's no right or wrong answer. He's got to answer those questions. Now, selfishly, I hope he stays at Georgia Tech for the same reason I wish Clark would stay at Vandy, and I wish Kenny would stay at Arizona State, because I love when guys with unique ties to programs end up winning at those places. It's kind of romantic in that it rarely happens. So when it does happen in college football, I love when guys aren't in such a hurry to leave town.
Well, you've been fantastic. We always love catching up with you, chit-chat about college football, and we'll see how the last 4 weeks of the regular season plays out with a lot on the line for a lot of fans and a lot of programs. We thank you for your time, Josh.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.